I would just ask us to keep that in mind. One of the people I talked to last week when I was trying to figure out really what kind of big packages legislative package number 3 should be, Leon Panetta was one of the people I talked to. And he told me about the 3 T's, timely, targeted, and temporary. Those are the 3 that he talked about. And timely means like making sure we calculate the right benefit, but we're able to turn around and pay it in a timely way. And what I gathered from my Secretary of Labor is we're not going to be able to incorporate what they're doing at the state level, feed into that the federal benefit, and do it in a timely way. I think if we could do that, you'd have probably a fair amount of bipartisan support.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show tonight. You got Jacob and John here. Johnny is working, and we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to provide a little bit of education. We're going to dig into this bill a little bit and talk about other current events that's going on. And we need to welcome Jacob back. He's out of prison from Facebook and back online so he can join us. So welcome, Jacob.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm glad to have you guys back. Boy, it's been a long time. 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks it's been. And lots happened since then.
Yeah. Oh man, the world's upside down right now. We are in some times that we have never ever seen. And it is it's alive and happening.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Christopher says we don't want the money, keep it.
Yeah. Hey, just to make a quick comment with that, Christopher, you guys won't even begin to believe the amount of pork in that bill that's going to come. Oh man, it's just anyway, whatever. Thanks, Chris, for your comment.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes over there with this bill. See, one thing that is true, always has been, and it's the phrase that you commonly hear in those political groups, and it is never let a good crisis go to waste, or a good event, or a good crisis go to waste. And so while they're enacting bills to help with the problem, they take that opportunity to throw all their crap in it that nobody wants, that they'll never get past, because they can do it and get away with it. And that's the sad thing about today, is they can do that and get away with it because that bill will sit there and it won't go anywhere unless they pass it through and they get what they want. It's terrible. Jacob, you got anything to add about that?
So what you guys have to understand is politics is really a game of optics. It's not just a game of it's not just a ground game where you do stuff. It's a game of optics and how you look. And John correctly pointed out that when a crisis comes, never be afraid to act. And we know the Democrats, these guys, this is how they operate. They can't operate straight to your face. They have to go around the back door and do whatever they have to do. And yeah, they tried to find some stocking stuffers, so to speak, for our Christmas morning gift, which is, i.e., the stimulus check. And they did what they could, and they didn't get their way, and they got pretty ticked off about it. But the problem is, in the politics game, we all know optics is really the key. And boy, they look bad. They didn't look too good. I have Democrats that live around me here in Lubbock, where I live, and they were just flat out embarrassed by their behavior, trying to stuff Green New Deal, student loan forgiveness, and all this other crud in this bill. And surprisingly, a lot of Republicans were for it. But in the end, they said no, and it's out. And like John correctly points out, these people, I mean, I don't even know how to politely define them. It's almost like they're psychopaths. I mean, I don't even know how to. There's literally businesses about to close their doors. There's families about to get kicked out on the street. And these people are thinking about Green New Deal and student loan forgiveness? Are you kidding me? I mean, it's just crazy, man. Anyway, the stimulus bill, I believe I'm not a socialist, just to be clear. I don't think John or Johnny are either. John, Johnny, myself, we're not socialists, but there is a time where our tax dollars are used for good use. And I would say, as long as like in the gentleman that was pointing out that's on the, I think there's a Senate floor he was speaking. Yeah, we need to target the money in the right way to the right people for the right reasons. And if we're just handing out money to people, that's just, it's not going to flow in the direction that's going to be effective. But if we target businesses that have been affected, people that really need it, it will flow through the economy and basically kickstart. Think of it like when your pump cavitates. If you prime a pump, it can suck the rest of the material out and get the economy moving and cycling again. But you need something to prime that pump, and that's the purpose of a stimulus plan.
To keep you and I from getting kicked out on the street, and to jumpstart the businesses that employ all the people. I've heard President Trump say it many times over the last few days. I don't think I've missed one of his speeches for the last week or so. And one of the things he keeps pointing out is that those companies, the small ones, are the heartbeat of America. The large ones employ a large number of people. They need to be kept alive as well. At one point, he said that most of those guys can stand on their own. Today, he was talking that if they needed a loan, they would get a loan, but they would have to pay it back. But just as Jacob said, the bill is to keep us on our feet while this virus is being dealt with and eradicated from doing us harm and from killing us for sure. So, you know, the idea behind it is I can agree to it. I think it's a good idea, and I don't look at nothing of being socialist. I got my haters on Trump haters on my page, and of course, you know, they're like, oh yeah, here's your taste of socialism. Yeah, you guys speaking about socialists, take that check and you're diving into socialism. And it's like, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as the country trying to help us stay on our feet while we get through a mess that's none of our fault. None of us created it. None of us have any fault in what's going on right now, but we have to sacrifice to help get it to stop.
Absolutely. Just real quick, I want to address that. This is a main point. We're going to get constant pushback, so it's good we bring this up right now. You brought that up. The more hardcore conservatives, and what I'm speaking of conservative, I'm talking about the libertarian-minded people and the anarcho-capitalists and the anarchists. Okay, those three groups of people, they're what they call market purists. If something fails, screw it. You should have saved enough money. You should have, whatever. They don't believe in any social safety nets. They just believe in the market, and they're what I call the purists or the truists. Okay, let me address something real quick. First and foremost, we live in a country of 330 million. What you guys set up in a laboratory, okay, ANCAPs, that's anarcho-capitalists, libertarians, and the anarchists. Okay, those are the three that push back really hard against this. Let me address this real quick. Okay, first of all, you guys have never had a successful nation of any size, ever, period. It works on paper. It doesn't work in person. You guys need to get these theories and throw them out the door, okay? Nobody cares about your utopian society. That's the right's utopia. Like the left's utopia is communism. The right's utopia is like this perfect world where we just go by a pure market system and there's no taxes. The government somehow takes care of you. Number one, you can't protect yourself. There's no military that'll defend you. If you become a prosperous society, someone's going to invade you and take your crap. Okay, number two is there's going to be huge inequalities and all the dipwads are going to gang up and rob the rich guy. Okay, and there's no public safety. What you guys want in theory doesn't work, and it never has, and it never will, okay? Because they're going to have those people that gain more than others. They're going to gang up and steal from someone. It doesn't work, okay? So when something like this comes up, that's what the whole purpose of having a government and the tax-paying system's for, is we pay in taxes, we stimulate the economy, we come back and we pay more and we make up for the debt, okay? This has come up over and over. You Republicans hate socialism, but when it's for your people, you're all for it. Sorry, this isn't socialism. This is stimulus. When you have like let's say a tank of water and a pump that's not primed, or a pump that's cavitated, you need something to prime it to get it to move, to pump. Okay, that's why they call it a stimulus package. So I want to now. The other side of that argument is they're putting pork in their stuff that's unnecessary. That's a legitimate claim. That's very legitimate. Pork, and they call it envelope money and all the favors, the political favors certain companies will get because they contribute. Now, those are very, very, very legitimate concerns. But in terms of giving people checks for something that wasn't even their fault, okay, government quarantined and mandated people stay at home. These businesses and these people, it wasn't their fault they got laid off and fired, and these businesses are closing their doors. Like the airline industry, I have no problem bailing them out. The airline industry as a whole, because we took away their whole freaking business. I mean, when you shut them off, I think 40% of the industry is international travel. When you shut them off, and domestically you shut people off, how the hell can you maintain a business? These market truists will tell me, oh, just let them fail. Guys, when you have all these airports, all this equipment, all these employees, you can't just let it fail because it liquidates, people move around, people screw up. It would take a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of work to get it, reorganized and such. I'm sorry I went on kind of a long tirade there, but I have to address this because libertarianism, anarcho-capitalism, and anarchy doesn't work in actual practice. It works in theory.
Yeah, just look all around you. We are the last republic. Last free country. Look at all the countries around. Who's the latest? Venezuela. Look at the garbage they're going through. I mean, it's not hard to see that it don't work. Really, I don't understand. I don't understand the veil that some people have that can't see that it's not working anywhere. Why would it work here? Why would we be any different?
Yeah, that's more the left-wing socialism, but they're accusing the Republicans of being like Venezuela. They'll say, oh, when your people are getting paid, it's okay, but when our people aren't getting paid, you guys are being selfish. You're all about your goods. And I'm like, I pointed a very particular distinction. The government shut these people down. And people lost their jobs through no fault of their own. That is a true market solution, okay? But these people, they just take this theory into this world of, oh, well, they should have had money saved. They should have had this. They should have. It's like, guys, that's not the world we live in today. With a Federal Reserve and fractional reserve banking, there's no need to save money because you got bailouts, you got welfare, you got, they print money and the value of money goes down over time. It's like, these people don't think. All they do is they have these cute little theories, and then they just, okay, that's the way it should be. And it's like, sorry, that's never worked, and it never has.
Right. I had another comment here I was just looking at. Let me just throw it up here. Yeah, nothing's free here. It's paid for by the blood of patriots, for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a great comment.
And that's going to continue to have to be the case for us to stay free, unfortunately.
We have to fight to keep it, man.
We do.
Got to fight to keep it.
We had to fight for it, and the fight doesn't end there.
Oh, that's the down payment. Like, think of a payment on a house. The down payment is getting it. That's not the whole schedule of actually paying off the house.
We ever stop fighting for it, it's going to be gone like that. We were so close to being that in 2016, but that's a story for a different day. I think I've talked until my gonads hurt, and people can't see, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I know the feeling. Oh, believe me. Believe me, I know the feeling. Losing friends, losing Facebook accounts, getting 9 different Twitter accounts. Let me just, getting deplatformed in every way you can think of. I had a little egg account with a PayPal account. I got kicked off of PayPal on one of my Twitter Reddit accounts. I got kicked off of PayPal, and thank goodness I didn't use my real name. I used a pen name. That way
Right.
I'm not permanently banned off of PayPal. But yeah, it's guys, we got to fight to keep it. And then furthermore, going into the stimulus, what related to the talk is you guys don't understand how close we are to absolute catastrophe, like economically speaking. I'm not talking about the COVID-19, but the COVID-19 is sort of like the gun that caused the avalanche to come down. But people don't understand how close we are to failing the economy and like going completely belly up. They just don't understand. I mean, these last couple weeks have really, really hurt the economy, man. Oh man. And at the same time, the whipsaw was we have oil that's also struggling too. Now that's good for consumers, but for our export markets, which was a big part of our economy, that's not good, man. It's been so this stimulus was needed. It guys, it really is needed. $2 trillion is a lot of money. I think that's as big as Australian and Switzerland's economy combined. 2 trillion is a lot, but it's going to flow back in the system and go through. It's not like we just dig a big hole and throw it in the hole.
Right. And I had a thought and I kind of lost it. I was going to say, as far as the economy goes, I think we will see, this is my thoughts, and they differ a little bit from Jacob's, but I think we will see it rebound and rebound better than it ever was. We pushed all new highs this year, or in the last 3 years. The stock market's hit all new highs, and I think this has pushed it down. But I think when it rebounds, and it will, I am very confident that it will in a short amount of time, and it'll rebound higher than the all-time highs that it ever hit. Those are my optimistic thoughts on it, and we'll see in a few months where we stand, and we'll get back on here and say, y'all, or we'll get on here and say, I fucking told you.
Well, just so I want to go over this real quick for everyone to know what's going on. Oh, hey, no, please. You know what? I will celebrate, John. Everyone can hold me accountable too. I will celebrate. I'll do a happy dance if John says I told you and he's right. I would love to see the economy blow up even higher. I would love to see it. But the problem we're seeing, guys, in the economy is a lot of these companies have a lot of debt and they can't service their debt. And yeah, well, okay, so basically that's a deflationary. I'm not going to get into a big talk, but basically a lot of these companies, they issue stock, whatever stock people buy, they'll have bonds to do other projects, and they'll use those bonds to buy back the stock, which increases the price, and it's sort of a false way of increasing demand. People buy the stock, and it creates a bubble. The problem is a lot of these companies can't pay their bonds. Or at least they're having trouble servicing the bonds are basically debt. And what's happening right now, guys, is there's a bit of a bond problem right now where these companies they can't service their debt. And when that happens, companies go bankrupt. And when you see companies buy back a lot of their stock, they're trying to boost their price up. But when they can't meet their end obligations, their debt, their bills from the bond market, that's when everything's going to go belly up. And we knew the yield curve inverted back in August, but it's all kind of coming to a head right now. And it's going to be, I mean, once the economy kind of kicks in gear and takes off again, that won't be a problem. These companies can service their debt, but they can't service their debt when everything's so slow like it is right now. They can't. And then that's when you get into bankruptcy and you get your Moody's comes and they says, oh, you're not going to pay your freaking bonds, or whoever the bondholder is. And then they can a judge will come and see a company, they'll get sued and they'll get their assets liquidated. And it's horrible, man. What I'm saying is a lot of things can happen bad if the economy doesn't kick back up, man. A lot of bad things can happen. But that's why I tell people this COVID, it's going to go through the economy regardless of how fast or slow. You can flatten the curve to 1 degree or heighten it like this. It's going to rip through the economy. I just say, let's go back to business, baby, because it's going to rip through either way. It's going to rip through.
Again, my confidence level is pretty good on this, pretty high, but I'm pretty confident that within the month we'll be back. Mid-April, we'll be back, if not in full. President Trump said it today that we'd start with certain parts and get us back online because we're pretty much offline right now.
Totally offline.
Not just nationwide, worldwide. This is going on in 100, what did he say today? 150 countries. This invisible virus is being attacked very viciously. And he said it's 150. So it's not just us. Several other countries are dealing with the same thing. So it's going to take a minute to get the wheels turning again. And like Jacob said about the stimulus, it's to siphon that pump and get those pistons moving, because there's a lot to it. There's a lot of movement that's going to need to go back into play that right now is halted. We are kind of at a, pretty much a standstill.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Think of a pump that's cavitating. Once you get some liquid that feeds that impeller, then it can pump and suck, and then it can recycle, and everything's good. But I mean, people just don't understand how fragile the economy is right now. Like, if these companies can't pay their debts because they don't have the revenue, they just flat out don't have the revenue. They can sell their stocks at a loss, but what does that do to your portfolio? That screws up everyone's portfolio, and then they want to dump their stock and unload it, and that's what causes a freaking depression. And we don't want that. We can prevent all of this if business just picks up again, where these companies can get revenue to where they can pay these debts. These companies on their books, they're not bad. It's just they have no revenue. A lot of these companies have freaking no revenue, man. And it's like, we can't just shut everything down for this virus. The death toll is less than 1%. Even in Italy, it's only like 3 or 4%, but that's a whole different country with, people live close together. They have socialized medicine. There's a lot of factors there. Plus, it's an aging population. So there's a lot of lifestyle factors there too. But if you look at Japan and North Korea, they're going through this no problem whatsoever. And this is just my opinion. I don't think we need to open our doors up for business again. I mean, I'm sorry, we want to flatten the curve, but I mean, we just can't. I mean, there are people that are going to die. This is life, guys. I hate to say this, but people are going to die, and there's going to be old people that are affected by this, and also sick people. There's a dude that had cancer here or I think it was in Dallas. A young guy like my age had cancer, and he died when he had COVID. And it's like, look, he had cancer anyway. He was going to die eventually. Just
pneumonia or
yeah. I mean, if you're already sick, but that's who it's already affecting, the unhealthy as it is. And it's like, I mean, that's life. Nobody's promised a certain length of time to live. I hate to say it to people, but that's life, man.
The thing that a lot of people aren't doing is looking at a big picture. I've always been taught to step outside and look in, and look from a distance, look from afar. You can see a lot more. And the thing, and I've been preaching this on my page, my Facebook page and stuff, but there's, just say there's more to this story than what we know. And by having the kids out of school and having us not congregate in large groups and stuff is actually saving more lives than people would understand.
That's what I mean by flatten the curve, by the ways.
And so what I mean is, if they can't, if there's no school shootings going on or anything like that, say you disrupt the system of the bully, and you disrupt that system, and the bully gets mad and wants to go out and do harm, and can't, because the things that they use to do harm isn't there for them to do harm with. It really puts a nail and drives it right through their plan, And so, I just urge people to look at the bigger picture. Look, listen, feel, and smell. See what's going on around you. Things might be a little bit different than what you think. I'm done trying to convince people. But here, you got a couple of comments here.
Yeah. Let's check some comments. Who's the outlaw with you tonight? Yeah. What's up, Doc?
Welcome. And you have another one here.
Knows his shit. He's right about the bonds and the stocks. It's Janice, it's people, the main public, they're not paying attention to that. These companies and these CEOs, this is what they do. These freaking CEOs, they get a lot of you guys don't understand this. Let me explain this. CEOs get paid how the stock performs. They don't just get a flat salary. So if the stock does really well, they get paid for that. Okay, there's a certain amount of stock they get. They do this. These CEOs, this is what they do. They issue a ton of stock. They sell whatever's left over. They'll issue a bunch of bonds. They'll funnel that bond money and they'll buy back a bunch of stock. It'll, because there's less stock on the market, more demand. It raises the price. People say, wow, the stock just went up from 52 to 57 in only 90 days. That must be a good company. And they look at the balance sheets and everything, look at the income statements. They're like, man, everything looks good. And then everyone dumps in. The stock goes up. But then when the demand starts to fail and there's no more bonds to buy, guess what happens? But at that peak, the CEO leaves the company. It goes down. Shareholders screwed. Bondholders, they go to the judge and collect their money. A whole company gets destroyed. But we can prevent that. Now, there was a company, Boeing got caught doing this just recently, because they burned through a bunch of cash. And there's been a bunch of other CEOs that have been caught doing this. Now, this is what's going on. This hasn't been talked about a whole lot. And people need to be aware when you invest in a company, guys, like your portfolio or your retirement or something, you need to be aware of who that CEO is. Because if your company you're invested in is buying back a lot of stock, that is a huge red flag, a huge red flag. Either they don't have confidence in building new projects or R&D, or they're just trying to pump up the stock price and just trying to basically using fake money, or like a sugar high. You drink like a freaking energy drink and you're like, wow, I got all this energy. Everything looks good, but then an hour later you crash and you fall back down to where you're at. And that's what's going on. It's people need to pay attention to that. And then, but we can prevent these companies from crashing if we just get the freaking revenue coming back in. Because if there's no revenue, they can't pay their debts. And if they sell more stock, when you split the stock and try to sell more stock, it doesn't look good because it makes you look desperate. Like, oh my goodness, we're trying to sell the company. And the way they got to explain that and sell that, it makes them look weak. And then the public's like, whoa, what's going on here? They can't meet their debt obligations. They're flooding more stock. Like, I don't trust this company. And next thing you know, people who have the stock, they start flooding okay, I'm getting rid of this. Next thing you know, the company goes freaking bankrupt. Anyway, whatever.
Happens all the time.
But it's going on with a lot of big companies. And this is what they're hoping for. This is my little thoughts. They're hoping for a bailout. It started with the Illinois Continental Bank. They were the first ones to get the bailout. Then the banks in 2008, and then GM, Ford, Chrysler. These companies like Boeing and these big companies, they're hoping for bailouts. That's why they're doing this. Or these CEOs, that's why they're doing this. They want bailout money. And that's why I brought up the $6 trillion stimulus. We have an article here from, I think it was the New York Post from Larry Kudlow, I believe his name is. He's the chief economic advisor. They're going to pad an extra $4 trillion to this $2.5 trillion, or I'm sorry, $3.5 trillion, because I think that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they're using that money to rescue a lot of companies that are going to fail. And these companies have nothing to do with the freaking stimulus. They have nothing to do with the coronavirus. It's just their own bad doings. Some of them, not all of them, of course. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there was another comment. I'm sorry. I went on a little rant there.
Jenna's seen it happen firsthand. All this stock stuff, I think. That's beyond my knowledge bank there. All I know is I did not sell mine, and I'm not going to, because I don't want to take the loss. So I'm confident that it'll come back up and I'll recover my money. So I'm not stressing it. Yeah, I'm not stressing it. I mean, it's not my life savings either.
Once we open up the economy and money starts flowing, I keep telling people that'll fix everything. But if we keep this economy shut down like we've been doing, I guarantee you these companies can go bankrupt because they can't service their debt. And the bondholder is going to say, hey, they're going to be knocking on the judge's door saying, I want my money.
Right.
And they legally, not the equity stockholders, but the bondholders, they have a legal stake in those companies.
Right.
So anyway, that's much ado about nothing. But back to the stimulus here. We've talked about why it's necessary. So what really is the cause of this? Okay, like what is the whole purpose of this? Obviously, it's to put money in people's hands. They're talking about $1,500, I believe. They upped them out from I think it was $1,200 initially. Wow. Now it's $1,500, which that credit goes to the Senate, not the House, because the House proposed $1,200. The Senate were going over the bill together, and then they upped it to 1,500.
Up to 3,000, depending on kids
Yeah,
and
yeah, 3,000.
marital status and all that stuff.
Yeah, and by the way, that is a Republican-led Senate, Republican majority Senate. So it just shows you that both parties in on this. It's just you have the bad actors that want their own little pork involved here.
Right. Trying to slide that stuff through that they know they can't ever get past.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
back door, it's like little Jimmy going to mom and saying no, and then sliding back and going to dad and saying, "Your mom told me to ask you," and getting it through.
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
getting it through. So it's just backdoor bullshit, that we learned as kids, I guess, apparently, but trying to get her past, or with using us, you and me, using the crisis to get their to take care of their puppet masters, is what I call it.
Pretty much. I mean, people don't understand politics is so much of an optics game. A lot goes on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but a lot of it, like think of WWE wrestling. That's what it is. It's a lot of it's an optics game. Who looks good. And people, the public at large, they vote based on what they see. They don't vote based on what actually happened. Taxes, actual legislation, ordinances, if you're local, if there's actual, rulings, like certain judges rule a certain way. Like you have some far leftist judges that are what they call activists. People don't care about that stuff. They only care about what they see. This is the mainstream folks that watch the news. They're busy in their own lives. They don't pay attention. They vote on what they see. They don't really vote on. And thank goodness it's coming at a good time, because Democrats aren't making themselves look too good with this. I know people who have been registered Democrats for 30, 40 years. They're pissed at the Democrats right now for trying to take it. I mean, they were just being way too greedy about this, just way too freaking handsy. Oh, now's the time to pass the stimulus. Let's stuff all our own stuff in there, and let's rewrite the bill and stuff it, because that's where the bills originates, in the House. So you have all these members, majority Democrat. They're going to make this bill to where they're going to say, okay, let's put our goodies in there, but the Senate's going to go, whoa, stop here, send it back. And yeah, but I think it's already been passed by the Senate. I believe it happened today. I don't know if it got amended or not. I think of course, Trump, I'm positive Trump will sign it right into law as soon as it hits his desk from the Senate.
We'll look at it here with this. We'll all look at it together and see what it says. We'll see where it's at, if it's been updated or what. Let me move that down a little bit. Let's see. Let's refresh the page. There we go. Well,
okay, so it hasn't passed yet. It just says right
here. It has not.
3548. Yeah, because they're amending little tiny things in the bill. This is where I talk about the pork, the envelope money and the pork money. This is where all the pork and the envelope stuff comes in. I guarantee you, behind closed doors, they're fighting over, my constituents want this, my constituents want that, and they try to find like some sort of common agreement. And it's really difficult to do that when you have a far left party. And when the Democrats that are in the Congress right now that are really far left, like the Squad, it's really hard to find common ground, because they want student loan forgiveness. Has nothing to do with this. They want student loan forgiveness. I don't have any problem with giving the older folks extra money. I don't, they paid into the system. Everything's changed since it went up. I have no problem with that. Because, they're going to spend it. Old people don't just freaking put the money in their pockets and keep it under a mattress. They're going to go out and buy groceries. They're going to pay their rent. They're going to buy gas. I mean, this is stuff that needs a cycle. In other words, it's going to flow back through the economy. Like it's going to enter a system, come back, and it's going to come again. So I don't have any problem with giving people cash. I do have a problem bailing out private companies. They'll screw up their own. They screw up their own companies.
Yeah, but he made it clear today it's not a bailout. It's basically a stimulus package for us and a loan for businesses that they have to pay it back.
as long as there's
It's not a
mandates on there-
bailout. It's not the bailout
Yeah.
of 1978 or whatever it was. When was it? 2008.
2008,
2008 for Ford and GM. Not Ford. Ford didn't take one,
Well,
did
no,
they?
Ford didn't take the money. It was GM and Chrysler. I missed.
Yeah.
I did say Ford. It was GM and Chrysler who took the money.
Yeah, yeah. And so, a little bit different there. With the events and this is a company next door to us. Rodney and I worked together.
He brought up a great point, and that's what the stimulus is for.
And they shut the doors.
Exactly.
They booted everybody out and said, "See ya." And they built Zarnowski is a company that builds displays for trade shows and stuff. Builds big displays and ship them all over the world. And they shut down and it was more than just one store. They shut them all down, however many they had. I think it was like 4 or 5 stores nationwide that they shut down.
I'm not laughing at that situation. I'm laughing about comparing the stimulus to TARP. I don't know if you guys remember TARP when we bailed out AOG or AEG. It was that insurance company. We bailed out all these big banks.
AIG.
And then when we came to give people loans for what they needed, like buy houses and cars, they said, no, screw you. If you don't have a 750 credit rating, we're not even talking to you. And it's like, wait a minute, but we couldn't force them to lend because there was no mandates. But I think in this loan, there's going to be mandates saying, look, we're not telling you how to run your business, but by this loan, there's certain things you have to do or
they have to keep people employed.
Okay, there you go. That's a mandate.
They have to keep people employed.
There was no
and they can't lay anybody off.
Yeah.
They have to keep them
with
employed.
The banks and TARP, the banks, AEG or AOG, I can't remember that big insurance company.
It's AIG.
AIG, thank you. AIG, the banks, and GM. Nope, no mandates. Here's money. Take it.
Yeah.
There was no mandates at all.
Right, and it was billions of dollars. It was a bunch, wasn't it?
I think GM and Chrysler had to pay back their loans, and they did with interest, but there was no mandates on anything, like keeping a certain amount of workforce. There was no mandates on making loans to small businesses, keeping revolving lines of credit for small business and housing and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. There's none of that. No mandates at all. It's just here's the money. You do what you want from a market standpoint.
Right.
And yeah, they screwed everybody. And that's why the public was so pissed about it. It's like,
and still are.
Why did we
still throw that up?
Bail them out when they weren't here for us? Like that's why the taxpayers were so pissed about that. Right. Where if you put mandates in there, like keeping a certain amount of a workforce, that's different because that's an agreement. That was a one-sided deal. But obviously we know there was a lot of politics involved with the bailouts because people understand it went from a Republican to a Democrat. There was a lot of backroom deals, a lot of politics involved with that because you let Lehman fail, but you don't let any other fail like Bear Stearns, Goldman Sachs, and gee, I wonder why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the taxpayers, the people, have not forgot that because I see it come up on my page all the time about these bailouts and the taking care of your buddies in big business and giving them money, free money and stuff. And so it still sits very, very very strongly with the people.
Believe
about
me,
that. And so
that's a focal point in everyone's. Even Democrats I know were pissed about that. They're like, wait a minute, I had an ice cream business or whatever kind of business. I went to the bank to get a loan, to get a revolving line of credit for my business, my balance sheet, income statement, everything looked good. But they said, read between the lines. We don't have to make you a loan. We want to balance our stuff first. We'll make you a loan when we feel like it. And they're like, I'm the freaking taxpayer. You work for me now. It's like, you're not going to make me a loan. But yeah, that's why it's in people's mind because they remember how the banks behaved after that. And the car, the car manufacturers, their prices didn't get lower. They didn't build any better cars. Believe me, it's front of everyone's mind. That is, if you remember what happened in 2008. A lot of young folks, like if they're in their 20s today, they were too young to even remember that crap. They were in their teenage years then.
Right.
So you want to take a look at some of these articles that'll just kind of that way we can hear the chatter, like basically not mainstream. These are pretty mainstream sites, but like we can hear somewhat of the chatter, like some of the arguments that are going back and forth. That's all politics is, guys, really is a set of arguments. There's different competing views, and that's really all what politics is. It's just people are arguing making their case. And that's what it comes down to.
I just wanted to pull this up real quick.
Sure, yeah.
here.
We can start.
Then
wherever
which
you want.
article do you want me to do first?
Let's do the political one first because it goes over the stimulus just little bits and pieces without covering all 1,400 pages.
This is kind of off topic, but since we've been talking
No,
about
that's
it,
fine.
I just
Bring it
wanted
up.
to throw this up. And I don't understand why. You might more because you understand this a lot better than I do. But man, last couple of days, it's just taken crazy. It went up like 1,200 points yesterday and closed out. The Dow Jones closed out at 495 up today. So
you know why that is? The
it's
cat
just-
bounce. There's
we're
something
back
called
over
cat
21.
bounce.
We're back over 21 already.
I can't remember what the exact term is. It's a term on Wall Street. It's called the cat bounce. When you drop a cat, it'll hit the ground. Like you drop a cat from a 30-story building. No one's that psychopathic to do that. But it's going to bounce. It's going to, like when it hits the ground, it's going to bounce up and come again. That's what happens in recessionary situations. You'll see it bounce a little bit and then it'll drop even further. But
Yeah.
it's going to happen because there's going to be movement. People are going to see opportunities. There's a concept called buying the dip where people think it's at the bottom. That's when you have this huge inflow of cash come in and buy all these stocks. When when you see it surge a little bit. But then when people aren't buying the products and services of companies, it'll drop again.
Right.
That's dropping the cat, or it's a concept they use on Wall Street where if they call it cat drop or dropping the cat, where you'll have a recessionary trend, it'll spike up because people are trying to buy the dip or they're trying to buy the trough, so to speak. But I'll tell you what, guys, millions of people have lost fortunes trying to buy the dip. Don't try to buy the dip.
Day traders.
Yeah, exactly.
I did a lot of that for a while.
Here.
It cost me some money.
Yeah, I was a day trader at one time. Boy, I lost a lot of money. Just retired permanently from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I still do a little of it, but not a lot. Not like I did. 2008 and 2009 is when I lost my butt. So
me too.
And I've dabbled since, but I don't do it like I was doing it.
So we have a differentiation here for political. By the way, guys, if you're into like politics, this is a great site. It's middle of the road. It's not far left, far right. It's mostly fact-based. These people, they're pretty fair-minded. And if there's any kind of activists, they weed them out of there real quick. This isn't NBC or Vox or Salon or Daily Beast. I mean, Politico is a pretty straightforward publication. And anyway, they're just breaking down the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. GOP, Grand Old Party, is Republicans, for those of you who don't know. You know, they have the 1,400-page bill, the GOP. They go over this. So we can just read the little subheadings there instead of reading the whole article. We can give this article to people. But, you know, there's bigger cash payments. The Senate broke down for the people. We have bigger cash payments to Americans. You guys will see there's 1,500 instead of 1,200. You know, more help to the hospitals. They're the ones that are under-resourced. And again, that's where we need the money to go, is to the workers and to the hospitals. And expanding unemployment, paid sick leave, that's pretty self-explanatory there. You know, the green rules for airlines, which is
that should not even be in there.
Yeah.
This emergency funding for federal agencies, I'm not so sure it should be in there either.
Yeah, and that's
I'd
what
have to look and see exactly what that is. But this green rule for airlines, you know, so they're trying to cripple the airlines. Don't those goofy buggers jet set all over the country? Don't they fly everywhere they go?
They do. Okay, so in politics, in order to get what you want, you have to give a little. And this is where the Republicans, I think, made a deal. In order to get what they wanted, I think this is what they had to give, was the green airlines. Like, if we're going to give the airlines money, the Democrats saw an opportunity. They're not stupid. Some of them come off as stupid. They saw, okay, sure, we'll give the airlines a bailout for cash, but since we're giving them taxpayer money, not giving it to them, but, you know, as in form of a loan, since we're helping them, we're going to get something out of this. And that's what the Democrats pushed, was this Green New Deal for, you know, because they want to make everything, they think the planet's going to end in 12 years. So that's what their zeitgeist is. So that's why they fought for that. And again, when the Democrats control the House, guys, we can't get everything we want. When both sides feel like they got screwed, that's how you know it's a good negotiation.
Right. Tax plans from different planets.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. It just, because they're radically different in terms of what they wanted. That's why they haven't agreed. That's why they haven't signed it into law yet.
Oh, I got you.
They're just too totally. And again, because the Democrats control the House, they're going to ask for a ton of things. And the Republicans are going to say no, but we need to pass the bill to get aid to the families. So they're fighting for little things like saving the Postal Service. That's a bunch of BS. They should privatize it, I think. Make it next UPS.
Yep.
But the Democrats want a bailout again, and the Republicans are arguing we need to somewhat turn into a somewhat private organization. Lobbying restrictions, basically favors. That's what lobbying is. It's basically political favors is what that is.
Feeding the puppet masters.
Exactly. And then the business tax relief, that's for the payroll taxes. Let them take it easy on the payroll tax. Both of them, the House and Senate were pretty aligned about that. They were the one aid for airlines. Okay, that's part of that cash payment.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the airlines were hurt because of this shutdown. There's a lot I can blame the airlines for, but you can't blame them for this. I mean, they were shut down by the government. They can't help it. There's some companies that are very well run, like Southwest. They're a very well run company. They got hurt in this. It wasn't their fault. Smaller increase for but yeah, of course the Republicans got asked for a little bit more of their friggin' war chest, And
small business.
That's a big one right there.
Yeah, they really are the heartbeat of America. They employ all of us in these smaller towns and stuff, not the big cities,
Yeah, and this is protecting your internet. I think they were both aligned. This has to do with the whole I forget what that was called, the net neutrality part of it, because internet providers want to compete, and certain internet providers will cut you off, and they're trying to prevent. It has to do with the net neutrality.
Okay, yeah, that's what
further action from the Fed. Oh, the Fed! Oh, these guys, I hate.
It needs to go away.
Oh, at least we know what I say. I say let's audit the damn thing. I don't think we need to totally let it go away, but we need to audit it and see where the hell the money's going and what's coming in. We need because. That's crazy. They're appointed by the president, approved by the Senate, but they don't have to answer to anybody after that. It's like even judges have to answer to somebody at some point. Like I don't understand that. I don't. Anyway, whatever. Flush with food assistance. I mean, that's pretty obvious there. That's a staple. Everyone's going to need food assistance. Rewarding profits.
Oh, there we go. That sucker right here was really pissing me off.
The price gouging.
Oh man, I'm glad that caught some attention. It caught it local, state, and federal wide. That is ridiculous to take somebody while they're down and then stick it to them. $100 for a package of toilet paper, $150. You was seeing them on these local sites and Amazon and everything, but Amazon and the bigger sites shut them down. They deleted them and shut them down or whatever they did, so they couldn't do it. But it's like, man, that's just low. That's just low. You got to be low. I understand. I understand buying a product and turning a profit because I run a small business on the side and I do exactly that. But I don't take advantage of a crisis to price gouge somebody, when they're down. It's like there's a difference between price gouging and conducting business. And I think they've stepped over the line, and I think it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. So, okay. Let me explain to people the argument here. So the reason why people gouge, now John's absolutely right. Companies do this, individuals do this. They will absolutely take advantage of this. If there's no check, like that's what this is. There's a check on it. But the argument a lot of providers and firms will say is we're going to stock out of water if we raise our prices, people aren't going to buy as much water. We'll have water for everybody, or we'll have toilet paper for everybody. But that's a chicken doo-doo argument, if you ask me, because I seen it at Walmart myself and everywhere else in town. When they raise the prices, people still freaking buy, and then they go on Facebook Marketplace and they go on Craigslist and try to triple the price. I mean, that's why they're going to make sure they're like, no, you need to fix your supply chain. The government says you need to fix your supply chain. This whole nonsense where you can limit quantities, limit supplies, and raise prices. No, that's BS. So that's what really this is going over, and then keeping utilities on to cover it.
People,
and this is helping.
There.
This is helping. not
People
Section
and
8, but
companies.
the people that have low income, they can get audited. So that way the utility companies can't shut them down legally. Like they can build a bill or whatever, but they're delaying, I guess. I don't know. They're making certain exceptions for certain people based on their income. It's means tested, in other words. It's not just like giving everyone free electricity forever and ever,
Right.
you know.
All right.
Doubling up on
Let's
education
move
cash.
on.
I don't have an issue with that. Let me see, saving the T band first responders. I'm not even sure what that is. I'm just being straight up with you guys. I don't even know what this T band is. I didn't read it. Doing away the FCC sell off, federal communications.
That's it.
That's it right there. So that's really the gist of what's in the bill. I think John has the full 1,400 pages they're debating. I think the final
Yeah.
bill will come out soon.
I didn't think it was 1,400 pages, but
1,400 pages. Well,
is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah, who's going to read that?
Well, but that's and see, this is another argument. The reason why the Senate and the House make these bills so long is because they don't want the public to read it. That's why they complicate it. That's why AOC and all these Congress people have a huge staff. You're like, why the hell does AOC have a 15-person staff? Why? To pad paper. And then this person's staff and this person's staff and this person's staff. When you have Senate or House members that work on a bill together, they get their freaking staff. They do these long binges and they'll print like 1,300 pages. And there's part of the bill right there. That's the contents of the bill right there.
Holy cow! The contents is 30 pages.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you guys. But there are senators. They'll read every word of this. They will read every single word. And you quiz them on it, they're on it. Like that dude Nunes.
Look at the
Nunes. Nunes.
This is 247 pages.
That's probably just the gist of it, but it hasn't officially passed yet. So that's just more or less the outline, I believe. We'll check out
That's the bill. But...
Well, I mean,
which page do you want up now?
Well, let's just take a look at this. I want to just address this real quick. The second one says investors, news, airline stocks, Delta. I kind of want to, I mean, I've talked about this mostly, but just to tell people that what they're giving the airlines is a stimulus. They're not giving them a cash payment, like handing them cash. They're giving them a stimulus, meaning they're giving them something to start with, get their money flowing, pay their employees, pay their bonds, pay all the fuel and this and that, and just to keep everything going. But actually, go to the New York Post article at the very bottom here. That's what the stimulus package.
Which one's the New York Post?
It's the very last one at the very bottom.
The coronavirus
Just open that one. Yeah, just go ahead and open it. And then because this is where you're going to get a lot of value from this podcast, because they're trying to sneak this in. The mainstream media isn't covering this. I just had Fox on. I just had CBS Evening News on, and they didn't talk about this. They're trying to make this $6 trillion, this whole stimulus.
Oh, my goodness. It's only supposed to be $2.
Well, let me explain something to you guys. Germany's entire economy hell, I think France and the UK alone, their entire economy doesn't even add up to $6 trillion. Japan's entire economy is not even $6 trillion. There's a lot of fluff going on, okay? We don't know where this excess money is going to go, but I just want all Americans to understand they're trying to fit extra stuff in here. I think that's what's taking this bill so long to get argued about, because that extra money is going to go somewhere. And as Americans, as taxpayers, we have a right to know what the hell they're doing with our money.
Yeah,
but they're
basically
saying it's for employment, businesses. It's for I think some of the money is going to be for bailouts. That's a pure conjecture on my part, but I think it's going to be for future bailouts, like Boeing, companies that are eventually going to go bankrupt or in like Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 bankruptcies. I think they're going to have bailouts. I really believe that. But I think it's going to be mandated type of bailouts, not like a cash giveaway like with AIG and Bear Stearns and Goldman Sachs and everybody, like big banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. I don't think they're going to give that type of bailout to these companies. The federal government will give them a certain amount of cash, like buy a certain amount of their stock, and then as those companies earn money and they start to grow, they'll start to buy back their stock from the government, kind of like what Chrysler and GM had to do.
Right.
But I think that's what this extra money's for, is $6 trillion stimulus. I think it's for eventual bailouts, because there's a lot of companies that are going to go bankrupt over this.
We'd have
Because,
to read it.
I mean, when you have these companies that are really dependent on high revenues, like airlines and hotels and restaurants, I mean, guys, those margins are thin. Restaurants and hotels, and I mean, we're talking, guys, the EBITDA. It's an acronym for earnings before I think earnings before taxes, earnings, and I forget how it goes, but it's earnings before taxes, amortization, and like whatever the hell it is. Anyway,
Right.
it's just pure earnings before you pay all the excess. Their margins are only like 5%, 4%,
5.
very tiny.
I don't know how they can operate like that.
But their volume is so high. That's why the volume is. Airlines, their volume is tremendous, tremendous volume. It's sort of like saying what's 10 billion times 1.5, and that's kind of how they make their money. Their margins are so thin. So when revenue totally gets cut off, I mean, they're bankrupt within 2 or 3 months.
Oh, I would guess at a margin like that. I worked for multi-million-dollar oil companies, and I was held to a 30% standard, 30 to 35,
oil companies are a little different.
30
oil
to 35.
Companies, now, okay, that's a good. No, I'm glad you brought up the oil companies. Now, this is what I surmise as well, because we're in such a huge oil war with OPEC against Russia. Because it's not just Saudi Arabia; it's all of OPEC's joining in against Russia. I think some of that money is going to be for the bailouts of those oil companies too. Now, don't ask me why we're going to do that, but I think we're going to bail a lot of those companies, because those oil companies, they bid these wells at like a certain amount of like a break-even point, say $30 a barrel. If they can't drill for $30 a barrel, again, they have bondholders. They have bondholders they have to pay, and if they can't pay it, that's where they face bankruptcy. And a lot of fracking companies, they cannot make profit less than $50, $45, $50 a barrel. They just can't do it.
50 is kind of the cutoff.
Yeah, I mean, but the barrel's trading at 22, 25. There's just no way.
They can't even afford to start a truck for that.
But oh gosh, and the thing about the oil too is what compounds the problem even further is we have no demand. It's not just the supply, $25 a barrel, $20 a barrel. It's a demand issue. There's nobody using it right now because we're all quarantined in our houses. So I think the oil companies, one after another, they're going to have their hand out to the federal government and ask for handouts. But with them, they're high revenue companies where they could pay that back really quick once oil goes back up. I don't have any issue with oil companies getting bailed out because they have high revenue. It's just how the deal's structured. And I think Trump, he's a businessman. He's not going to let CEOs work one over on the federal government. I don't believe that. Maybe if it's a Democrat, I think there'd be some favors made, but someone like Trump, no way. I doubt it. Or he would destroy them in some way, one way or another. I don't think Trump's a savvy businessman. He can see this stuff 10 ways to Tuesdays. So I don't have any issue with bailing out the oil companies whatsoever.
Yep.
Because they'll make their money back at some point.
Right. We got any more comments? Let's see. We're gonna need to start kind of maybe wrapping
it up.
$1,000 for a COVID test. That's crazy.
Oh, okay. So thank you, Rodney Miles, for bringing this up. Okay. Part of flattening the curve. That's why we're quarantined, by the way, everyone. We were quarantined to flatten the curve. Part of flattening the curve means we don't have these coronavirus tests to actually test people. We're saving it for those who are basically on their deathbed. That's where we're saving it for. There are people in Dallas right now. They're 100%. 100% you have coronavirus, COVID-19, okay? Guess what? There's no test to prove that. They're just going off their symptoms. There's nurses and doctors saying, you got COVID. Why are they doing this? It's a form of malpractice if you think about it, but it's not their fault. They don't have the testing kits. They don't have the resources. That's a big argument in favor of this quarantine. They're $1,000 a kit, okay? Now, to pass that off on the consumer, that makes it really, really tough. A lot of insurance companies haven't had their negotiating involved with this to lower the price or to raise the price or whatever the hell they say in the backroom deals. But yeah, Rodney's right. He's absolutely right. It's $1,000 just to test to see you got this. In New
Makes
York
you want to
City,
run right out and get one. Huh?
in New York City, those hospitals are so overwhelmed. They're just saying, you got coronavirus, you got coronavirus, you got coronavirus. They're just telling them they don't have kits to test it. And the people that are basically on their deathbed, they're showing vitals of this person is going to die. That's who they save the kits for. Young people like me who get sick and they just go over like a rubric or a checklist. Okay, yep, you got coronavirus. There is no test because we don't have the freaking kits. But so Rodney brought up a fantastic point. They're hosing these old people and working them
Right.
down. You know why? Because they can. Because they can. And oh man, I hate healthcare for that reason. I just, when someone's on their deathbed, they're just going to work them down. We just talked about that with the price gouging. It's like
Pharma, big pharma.
oh God, yeah, it's big farm. That's what it is, man. But just so everyone knows, that's why we're flattening the curve. It has to do with these lack of these tests, and they're raping people. And these big farm, they know they're going to make money. I suspect it's going to go way up, and they're going to take advantage of this. They're going to take advantage. I know big farm. They're not stupid. They're going to take advantage of this. They're going to try to raise to 2,000. Oh, you're going to die, John? 10,000 for the test. Oh, go ahead and die. See ya. I mean, I know they're going to abuse this. I know they are, and you could get some of these companies like 3M that manufacture other things. You could have them shut down and manufacture these kits. You don't have to have a medical device or a medical company do this. You can have regular manufacturers manufacture this stuff. These kits, whatever, make these kits, send them out, but nah, man, they want to limit the people making them so they can hoard them to where they can get more money out of people. That's what's going on. Yeah, so and Roddy I'm so glad he brought that up. That was a fantastic comment. That really had to become and that's not being talked about in the mainstream news.
Mm-mm. No, you don't hear anything
We got
about
some
it.
good comments tonight. Really, really good comments, man.
We did. Pretty active
Really good
group.
comments.
We had a pretty big group there for a while.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we had a pretty good group there for a while. I don't know how many we had on here, but we had quite a few on and off.
Yeah. So what time? Yeah, how much time you got?
Wrapping it
You
up.
want to start wrapping up?
Yeah, you want me to? Do you want that other one up here?
I mean, we can just open it real quick, just to give someone another competing view if they want to. They can always click out of your video if they're tired of watching it. We can just go over it real quick if someone's eager to watch more or just eager to watch a few more minutes. It won't be anything really. It won't be that big of a deal just to talk about it for just a second. Whatever. It's Investors Business Daily Journal. This is a good journal, guys. So the airline rally. Okay, so the airline stocks, there's more confidence. Why is it? It's what we talked about because they're going to get a stimulus. They're going to get an infusion of cash. Investors, they feel like, okay, cool. This is a solid company. I'm not going to lose but people understand if you're a stockholder of these companies, when they go bankrupt, you lose everything. Bondholders, they can get their money back. Shareholders can't. That's equity. That's ownership. So the shareholders are saying, this is good. We have an infusion of cash. I'm not going to lose my shirt. That's why they're continuing to buy more. Unfortunately, those 420,000 jobs got lost, but I have a feeling they will be rehired at some point. They're layoffs. They're not
could be lost. It says could be.
Oh, I'm sorry, could be lost.
Could be.
Because they don't have the revenue. Like I said earlier, these airline businesses, it's such thin margins and such high revenue. When you shut it down for 2 or 3 months, my goodness, they're absolutely they're going to go bankrupt. The only thing the airline industry is really benefiting from is the lower fuel prices, and that's about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they've been hit hard, and they've been shut down the longest.
Yeah.
Of anybody that's been put out of work, the airlines was one of the first things to go because they had to stop travel. They had to stop the travel,
Because that's how the pathogen spreads. Look at them as like a super highway for this pathogen to spread. That's what they are. That's how it got here to begin with. It didn't get here in a boat. It got here by plane. That's how it got here. So of course they're going to shut down the airlines, but they're a business like everybody else. It's like, hey, if we can't operate, you can't fly to freaking France this summer or wherever you want to go. Like, you have a business trip or whatever. We can't operate. We run on money. It's a private company. So it's, this is good. Once again, I'm sure Johnny would be for it as well. I can't speak for him, but I mean, it's just one of those things, guys, that's necessary. It wasn't their fault. It really wasn't their fault. This happened. It just wasn't.
No, I agree. Wasn't
Now,
any
if
of ours,
someone,
you know.
now, if Boeing, the manufacturer, is doing bad things like what they got caught doing, like I described earlier, that's all an entirely different issue with Boeing. But Boeing's not in; they weren't affected by this so much. They were affected a little bit, but they're in the manufacturing and building of planes. They're not in the airline travel business.
Right.
So, what you think, John? Is that about it for tonight?
Yeah.
Or any other
Yeah.
thoughts you have? I mean, I've been talking most of the time. Let's give you some closing thoughts here.
Oh, I guess, you know, I've kind of spoke my piece already, but I think they, you know, they just need to get the thing passed. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, it's no different trying to slide the stuff, the greenhouse. Who the hell cares? They trying to slide that stuff in. They need to not be doing that. That's no different than the guy going and buying 10 cases of toilet paper and then marking it up 500%. You know, taking advantage of people during a crisis to get to put, you know, and it's like it isn't right, you know, and so I can see why the Republicans push back against it and vice versa and stuff. So hopefully they get it together and get it figured out and get this thing closed out, you know, near future, like tonight, like everybody keeps thinking they will have it done by tonight, and hopefully they do, you know. So
Absolutely, man. I mean, we could hope for it, but I think the right thing will be done ultimately. But I want everyone to really watch what happens. Like, just watch what happens. I mean, really
But is
pay.
that
The mainstream media doesn't want you to know what's going behind the scenes. Watch these CEOs exit these companies. Like Bill Gates just resigned from chairman of Microsoft, and he left the Berkshire Hathaway chair. You know, I think chair position, not chair position, but the share. I think it was like the board. Like a lot of CEOs are stepping down right now. Like Bob Iger from Walt Disney. There's a lot of CEOs stepping off. So it's like, wait a minute, is that what you guys were doing this whole time? Like, why are all these CEOs starting to leave these companies all at the same time? Like, what the heck's going on here?
something going on back there, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
The
why?
storm is upon them.
Yep. So my closing thought is, guys, we're all going to get sick at some point with this stuff. Let it spread. Let it spread. Let's give it another couple weeks or a month. Let's slowly open up our economy again, keep everything flowing. Because if companies go bankrupt, people lose their jobs. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to spread that way. Because people aren't going to stay in quarantine in their houses if they have no food, they have no freaking utilities, they don't have anything. They're not going. It'll spread that way. So you might as well let it spread through, people just trying to be careful and conducting their business.
Yep, I agree.
So that's all I got.
Right.
I'll
Thanks
head
for
out
joining
now,
us, you guys. We had, like I said, we had a really, really big crew tonight. Thank you guys. We appreciate you joining us. I don't know how regular we're going to be able to be. What's your thoughts?
So this week, because I'm going to be on days, not nights, I actually can. I'll be from like a man camp room, or I'll probably be from my car. I can do these the next 2 weeks, Wednesday at
Oh, okay.
6, I believe your time, 6 Pacific time. I can do this week, but just the last hitch, I was on nights and I was screwed and I couldn't do it. But yeah, next week Wednesday, let's set up something,
Get
and then
on.
following
Okay.
week I can do it as well. So yeah, I can. That's not an issue because I'm on days, and I'll get off my hitch about 4 o'clock Pacific time, your time, and then yeah, I keep up on everything, and we can have a chat next week this time,
Yeah,
and the following week.
we'll come up with a topic between now and then and whatnot. So look for us next week, you guys. Appreciate having you here. It's always fun, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys, for your
Peace.
eyeballs and your ears. Appreciate you.
Adios.
Adios.
There's another thing that's in the bill that's before us tonight that was not in.